Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to episode number 78 of the Houston Astros franchise here on MLB The Show 20. Today we have wrapped up the month of July, meaning we have 2 months left in the regular season, but we're going to recap what happened in the month. So if you're excited for this one, make sure you leave a like and subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. So today our Astros sit at 76-36. Here's what they did in the month of July. They went 17-9 across the whole month. It was kind of a tale of 2 months though. They played about 500 till about the All-Star break, but have really turned it on in the past 2 weeks. Our AAA team, the Round Rock Express, they sit at 61-45, doing pretty good this season. They went 18-9 in the month. And then AA, they sit at 16-19th in the second half, went 13-15 in July. So all around pretty good going on in the organization. Now we'll go to the standings, starting off with the East, where the New York Yankees have a 2-game lead over the Boston Red Sox, sitting at 71-39. In the Central, the Chicago White Sox have really pulled themselves away in the past few months. They sit at 69-42 and have a 12-game lead over the Twins. We currently have a 13-game lead over the Athletics, thanks to our 3-0 series lead so far in the current series that's going on. In the wild card, it is the Red Sox and the Athletics, but the Angels are a half game behind, followed by the Rays. In the NL East, the Nationals, they have a 4-game lead over the New York Mets. And in the Central, the Brewers have a half-game lead over the Chicago Cubs. And in the West, the Dodgers continue to dominate the division, leading 15 games over the Rockies, which the Rockies are one of 2 wild card teams. Shows you how dominant the Dodgers are. Mets are the other one, they lead the Rockies, but the Cubs half a game behind them, and then the Phillies 3.5. I was taking a look at the standings, so obviously we're doing very good. So the thing is to look at why we're doing very good. Well, if you look at the team rankings, our offense has been firing on all cylinders this season, especially since about June and beyond. We have the best batting average. We have the best runs at 613. Home runs, we are 3rd. And then slugging, we are 1st. So obviously, our offense has been destroying the baseball thanks to Bell, Bregman, Altuve, Alvarez, and company. However, one issue we've seen in the past month is our pitching. Our pitching has really struggled, and we've made some moves to try to increase it, but currently, ERA-wise, we sit at 17th in the league. Runs allowed, we are about at that same category. We are 16th in the league. And then home runs allowed, which I feel like is one of the biggest reasons why we are struggling pitching-wise. We are tied for 17th. So obviously our pitching has fallen off recently. And like I said, we made some moves to try to increase it. We'll take a look at those a second again. But we are still the second best team in baseball, so doing pretty good overall. Now, let's take a look at our player stats, see what's been going on both offensively and in the pitching category. That's why we've been doing so good. We'll sort it by batting average, and Bregman has been one of the best reasons, hitting .334, 34 homers, 97 RBIs. We saw him take place in the Home Run Derby, and currently he is in the race for the MVP. So Bregman has turned up to that high-level play we know he is capable of, having his best season even at the age of 27. He's only going to get better and better. Second in average is Miles Straw, which obviously he's not an everyday hitter, but he does have 102 at-bats, so the fact that he has a .333 average is pretty impressive. Straw is our utility, pinch runner who has the best speed on the team by far, which his stealing was higher, but he's hit the ball well. He's never really known to hit the ball well, as last year he struggled, and 2019 he did pretty good, but it's good to see Straw come off the bench and get some nice hitting. Then Jose Altuve's hitting .323. He's getting back to his former MVP form. He had a down year last year, as we basically had a down year across all of our hitting, but up to .323 this year, 14 homers, 42 ribbies. He has been a very important piece of the offense. And I think, personally, I've started to finally learn how to hit with his small frame. Early on, I was like, he's so much smaller, it's hard to judge the strike zone. But I think I've really started to get a handle on how to hit with Jose Altuve. Then there's one of the newer Houston Astros in Josh Bell. Remember, we acquired Josh Bell a couple months ago from Pittsburgh when we traded Roberto Osuna and Yuli Gurriel. But Josh Bell is hitting .320, 30 homers, 79 RBIs, absolute dominance. He is going to be the first baseman of the future. He is up for a contract next season, so not this offseason, but hitting .320, 30 homers, 79 RBIs. He has been I think he's what's taken the offense to the next level. Like, the offense was obviously going to be good, but the addition of Josh Bell has just made it that much better. Then we have Mark Canha, one of my favorite signings this past all season from Oakland late, hitting .313. Currently, he's not starting every day. He does hit against left-handed pitching. It's just we have such a logjam of good hitters. And Mark Canha's hitting really well. 20 homers, 52 RBIs. I'm so glad we were able to get him from Oakland. I don't know why they let him go in the offseason, but he has been a great addition to the roster. George Springer's hitting .296, 14 homers, 46 RBIs. He's really turned it on. He had a bad first couple months, but has had a good past couple of months, gotten his average up to his career high, and his slugging, or his OPS, is at .896, so he's hitting the baseball really well. He only has 14 homers, but he's hit a lot of those in the past month or two, so Springer finally starting to click at that at-bat. Then we have Carlos Correa, who's hitting .285, and he's on a little bit of a cold streak, but he has 19 homers, 69 RBIs. His average was hovering about 300 for most of the year, but it has decreased a little bit. But the big thing is he is a free agent. It's just, are we going to be able to re-sign Correa for long term? We have so many big contracts long term. Altuve signed long term. Bregman signed long term. A couple of pitchers are due up. Bell's going to want his. Springer signed for another 2 years. Do we really have enough money to keep Correa on roster? I really hope we do. Avisar Garcia up next, hitting .269, 8 homers, 32 RBIs. He's been very clutch this year. We've seen him hit a couple of grand slams, and he's a very good corner outfielder, both offensively and defensively. Obviously, we acquired him in the offseason. He's done wonders. Then we have Josh Reddick, who's put together a quiet .262 campaign. He only has 4 homers and 15 RBIs, but remember, we signed him back this offseason after he had a good second half after being traded to St. Louis. And he's been a serviceable right fielder. He doesn't start every day, but, I mean, when he does get called upon to play, he plays really well. I mean, I have no problem with Reddick. It's just we have so many good outfielders, which is why we traded Michael Brantley, which more of that in a second. Stubbs hitting .253. He's on a little bit of a cold streak. He got his average up to the 280s, which, after the Stubbs we saw last year, looking at his ratings, he has no reason to hit in the 280s, but he's kind of come back down to earth. But I think Stubbs is a good catcher. I was in the market for a catcher, but Stubbs' play has kind of made me feel like otherwise. Now, the biggest disappointment this season is probably Yordan Alvarez. He's only hitting .252. He has 21 homers, 66 RBIs, and he's still a very good bat. But he has struck out a lot this season. He's already had 138 strikeouts in 440 at-bats. Not hitting the baseball as well as he did a season ago, so hopefully it's just a fluke year or a fluke time period, but I hope Alvarez clicks again. Then we have backup first baseman Justin Smoke. He's hitting .219. He was regarded to backup role once we traded for Josh Bell. And then we have Martin Maldonado, who's just the backup catcher now. He's lost his platoon duties. He's a free agent, probably won't be brought back. And then we have Jack Mayfield, who was recently called up because we needed middle infield depth. But we do get Diaz off the IL soon, so I don't think Jack Mayfield will be in the majors for very long. So he's kind of proven he can't really hit at the major league level. So now we'll switch it over to the pitching side of things, which is where we've struggled at, and we'll sort it by ERA. Starting off with Ryan Presley, he has the best ERA. He's arguably our best pitcher, whether it's starting pitcher or relief pitcher. Currently, he's in the closing role, and I think he's done a pretty solid, job with it. We do kind of do a platoon closer because we do have Brad Hand, so arguably when I play the games, it kind of depends. Do we have lefties coming up? Do we have righties coming up? If it is righties, I'll give it to Presley to get the save, but he's done a very good job, and we know he's really good, but he is a free agent, which is a little concerning because we have a couple of big free agents. Then we have Chris Devinsky, who's been surprisingly good. 2.17 ERA and 58 innings pitched. Called up after the season started, and he's basically held his job, having his best season since 2016. He had a bad season the past couple, so it was surprised to see him pitch so good, but I'm not going to complain. Another pitcher who's pitched good since being called up is Austin Pruitt, another man who started off in Triple-A. He's kind of been a career 4.20s, 4.50s ERA pitcher, and then now he's pitching with a 2.76 ERA, and his whip's down to 1.09. So Pruitt's putting together his best seasons of his career. Then we have our first starting pitcher in Joe Musgrove, the newest Houston Astro, who we saw make his Houston Astros debut last episode. We acquired him by trading Michael Brantley to Pittsburgh, and We just need help in the pitching, whether it be starting or relief. So we traded for Musgrove. He didn't have the best debut for us, but he does have a 2.92 ERA. His whip is a little high with a 1.24. So I guess, he's just more of a bend but don't break pitcher. But we should have him for next season as well, and I think Musgrove will be a welcome addition to the rotation. Another pitcher we traded for, we haven't really seen yet, is Dubre Ramos. We acquired him from the Dodgers when we traded Josh James out to the leaders in the NL. And, haven't really seen him yet, but he has a 3.05 ERA, and we're just trying to reach for anything. Plus, I was getting kind of tired of Josh James anyway, so we'll have to see what he brings to the table. Then we have Justin Verlander, whose ERA has ballooned up to a 3.23. He's obviously showing signs of regression. I mean, you can see it in his ratings. I think you could see it in his play as well. His control has really taken a hit. He's starting to walk more batters, as he's already up to 60 this season. His whip is up to a 1.19, one of the worst in his career, and his ERA is above 3. So hopefully Justin Verlander calls it quits after this season. He is a free agent, so I probably will let him walk anyway. It's just, does he retire an Astro? Then here's the other closer we got, Brad Hand. We signed him in the offseason to a 1-year deal because we kind of assumed we'd trade Osuna. Despite Osuna so dominant, we kind of wanted to clean up the image of the team. But Brad Hand, who split time with Cleveland and Kansas City a season ago, got off to a very bad start, which made the closer duties a little bit more, sketchy going into the future. But he's kind of cleaned it up. He's got the whip down to under 1, and his ERA is down to 3.54. He only has 3 saves, so he doesn't get called upon to close like we thought he would. But he's still a good hand in the in the bullpen regardless. Back to the rotation side of the scene, Jose Urquidy has a 3.54 ERA. Urquidy was my favorite player a season ago. Haven't really pitched with him, I feel like, this season a lot. He kind of doesn't get the first game of every series, but he's been serviceable, 3.58. His whip's down a little bit. Nice back into the rotation pitcher for the future. Then you have Lance McCullers, who's supposed to be our ace, but with a 3.80 ERA, hasn't really pitched ace-like. He does have a good overall, and he does good ratings, but he hasn't really pitched like his ratings say. He is a free agent after this season as well. We got a couple of trade interest from a couple of teams, and I never decided to pull the trigger. So we're sticking with McCullers for the rest of the season, but his play the next couple of months will really determine, do we sign him a long term. And lastly, the pitching side of things, Rogelio Armenteros. Kind of like Pruitt, he's just the 400, 440 ERA kind of guy. Back into the rotation, serviceable. Still only 25, so he does what he's supposed to do. Then a couple of relievers. Brad Peacock's had a bad year, 5.40 ERA. Was our best pitcher a season ago in the bullpen, which isn't really something to brag home about, but he's had a horrible year, showing signs of regression. And then Jose Urania, who we traded for last season, 5.85. So it is down. It was in the 7s or 8s, but once again, he is struggling as well. So you can see our pitching has plenty of problems across of it. That we hope to clean up. But that's all I really want to go over today in the recap. I don't really want to go over league leaders because we have a couple months left, and not the awards yet because I think it's a little too early. But so what we'll do to close out is we're up 3-0 in this series against Oakland. So let's sim the last game to see what happens. And we win 5-4, so we sweep Oakland. We take a 14-game lead in our division. We win 5-4. It looks like we had a rally in the 8th inning to actually come from behind. I'll have to see who was the big hitter. It looks like Correa had 2 RBIs of his own. Stubbs and Alvarez had some as well. And then pitching, it was Armenteros who kind of struggled. So like I said, hasn't been pitching that good. And Peacock gave up a run as well. So we get a series sweep of Oakland. And the next episode, we will have a 2-game series against Seattle at home, one of the bottom teams in our division, before having a 4-game series on the road rematch against Oakland. So we have a really good chance to space ourselves out from our division. And it'll be Lance McCullers taking on Nestor Cortez Jr. in the first game of the series. But that's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the July recap. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.